What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, if you haven't watched last week's video, you should go check it out. We got my Audi motor swap buttoned up, and we actually got the thing to start. Well, kinda. So yes, it did start, but it made some really questionable, really concerning noises. I did some research on it, and I also kind of tore into it a little bit this week. I took the valve cover off, kind of did some inspection. There's basically, in my opinion, there's two things that could be wrong. Technically three, but I already ruled it out. There's two tensioners on this. There's a cam chain tensioner, because the cams are on their own chain, and then there's a timing belt, and a timing belt tensioner. I checked the cam chain tensioner. It's a hydraulic tensioner that adjusts with the valve. It's like a VVTi. I checked that. That is very tight and good. So I need to check the timing belt tensioner, because if you remember the manual tensioner, there might be a little bit of slop in the rotation of that idler pulley. We might just need to tighten up the tensioner just a little bit more to get it to stop. It might be rattling. We just got to get it to stop rattling. And it also could be the lifters. So the lifters are hydraulic lifters. There's a little plunger inside them and oil comes in and out of them. It's very common on most vehicles. And this, with this motor sitting for a really long time, it's very possible that they dried out or they sludged up, because this motor has been blacked on for oil changes. So my current plan with the lifters to try and get them lubricated and or de-sludged is to take my oil can that I bought when I was rebuilding my ZF5 that has ATF in it, and I'm gonna squirt this all around the lifters, because ATF has a lot of detergents in it. So if they are plugged up with sludge, they will clean themselves out. And I think it's a little bit of a thinner fluid, so it will be able to creep in to places easier. I will just not run this oil for a very long time and very quickly do an oil change, which I want to anyways, because like I said, this car's been very neglected on oil changes. So I want to run some engine flush in it as well, but I want to fix the noise first. So with that being said, let's squirt some lifters. Okay, so you can see the tensioner down there. You see I'm holding on to the little pin, but I can actually, like, I don't even know if I'm showing that, but listen. So it does look like I can pick that up a little bit. So I am gonna try and tighten that tensioner a little bit. It's gonna be tricky with all this stuff in the way. Alrighty, I don't know how much you guys were able to see with that GoPro angle. It was kind of a really bad angle. I unbolted some of the bolts on the front end and kept some of the bolts in so I can just slide this thing back a little bit, because I can't take it off because it's full of coolant. But that was actually pretty loose. I put quite a bit of turns on it. I probably cranked it up a good like ½ inch, to be honest with you. Luckily, it was not loose enough for the belt tension to become off and my timing to become off. That very well could have been the noise more than the lifters, so hopefully I didn't just put ATF in my system for no reason. I didn't put a lot in there, so it'll be okay. Get the timing covered back up, button up all these loose front end components real quick, and then we'll try and start it. Let's give it a shot. I have the coil packs unplugged, so I'm gonna crank it a little bit. Let's see what that does. I also wanna crank it to try and get those lifters to break free a little bit with the ATF that's soaking in there before we start igniting things. So let's try that real quick. Alright, fingers crossed. Oh, that was interesting. What the fuck happened there? What a dial, man. That noise now. Got a really odd humming noise. Is it smoky? Why is it smoky over here? Did the turbo get hot enough to... What the f***? Where does the smoke come from? Smells like shit, runs like shit, car is shit. do have a check engine light, so I'm going to run the codes. I believe my OBD2 reader is still plugged in, so run the code, see what's going on. So I should add, the reason I revved it was because I saw some forums saying that it only clicks at idle and it goes away after like a certain amount of RPM, so I wanted to see that. But then I revved it up to like 2,500 and then it just kind of stalled and died, so that was really odd. I don't know what the hell that was about. I don't know if I need to pour some oil down the piston walls or something, because it also, that like squeaky noise, it sounded like my cylinder walls were dry or something, so I might, I don't know, pour some oil down the cylinder walls, cylinder heads. 180s aren't supposed to do this to me. This is supposed to be the motor I know well, right? After all that talk. Either way, I'll run codes, tell you what's up. Okay, so the codes didn't really give me much. Try to start it again, and it won't start now. So I'm gonna try and start it again now. That's sat for a minute. Well, I'm smelling a lot of fuel, so I really don't want to, but I'm gonna do a compression test. Because also, I don't know if you guys could hear it, and maybe I'm just freaking out, but it doesn't really sound like I have any compression. So, the worst part about this is, I have to crank it in the car while I push the clutch pedal in, so I gotta fiddle around the lift, and then walk over and see. Oh. I'll try and set it up to where you guys can see before me. Alright. Well, that's really low, but it is cold. It is a cold engine. It is very low. Hopefully I didn't just scar my cylinder walls. Why is everything so low? This is not looking good. 'Cause you know what that means. Something went fucking horribly wrong. Engine is cold. Consistency is good. Consistency makes me feel like it's just because the engine's cold. But I decided to put some oil in on top of these cylinders before putting the spark plugs back in, just in case the cylinder walls were dry. On cylinder 4, I decided to put the oil in before I did a compression test to see if that would make a difference. Whoa! Did she just, what the hell? That's concerning. Why is that one so much higher? Holy shit. I think this thing just decided to start cranking. What the fuck? Okay, maybe oiling the cylinder walls actually did something. Let's try and start it again. All right, we're gonna try and start it again real quick. The first 3 cylinders were at 90 PSI, and then I got cylinder 1 to be at 210. But I did do something different on cylinder 1, and I poured oil down it first before I ran the compression test, which I didn't do on the other 3 cylinders. So that might have sealed things up a little bit, and that might have just been what I needed. Because it did seem to crank better once all 4 cylinders were sealed. So, I don't know, I'm gonna try and start it. Well, I don't really know what to do. I don't know why it's not starting, so I think I will just try again in the morning when I have a better headspace.
Tomorrow.
Alrighty, we are back. I decided to take the spark plugs and the coil packs out of the parts motor because that was what came out of the car. That's what the ECU is used to. So hopefully that makes it start. I'm not feeling super confident. I don't really even know where to begin with chasing this thing down. So we might be putting a pause on this if this doesn't really do anything, because I might need John's help. And it's just, I might need also John's 1.8T good luck charm, because he's just really lucky with these engines. So let's try and start it, see what happens. smoke. Look at that. It's also making some really odd sounds other than just like clicking, right? Like it sounds like, oh, there's smoke over here too. God damn. God damn, it's all smoky back here too. Oh my God, it's everywhere. It's really odd noises. You know what I mean? It almost sounds like the pickup tube is like clogged or something, but I swapped that. So I don't really know what the fuck's going on. I'm gonna try it again. No fucking way. That thing sounds like it got no compression now. What the hell is going on here? Okay, so we got some kind of unfortunate news. Started to diagnose things a little bit. The crank sound is a very distinguishable low compression sound. That's just what it sounds like. I know what they sound like. So I checked cylinder 2, just cylinder 2, and it read 0. We're going to determine if it's a bottom end failure, meaning the pistons or the piston rings failed, or if it's top end failure, meaning the valve's bent. And we're going to compression test all 4 cylinders. My current theory is the bottom end is messed up, possibly bent valves. I just checked the timing belt though, and the timing belt's tight, and the tensioner's in a good spot. So unless I jumped somehow, which I don't see how that's possible, I don't think the valves are bent. So I'm leaning more towards ringland failure because this had a cracked oil pan. It sat and drained all of its oil out and sat there without oil for a while. So it's very possible the cylinder walls got rusted. It's very possible a lot of things dried out that they shouldn't have. And I don't know if you guys heard it when we were running it for that little bit. It was making that clicking noise, and then it also started making really horrible sounds. So it's very possible it's bottom end related. So let's find out. Let's check all 4 cylinders. If all 4 read 0, it's more than likely a bent valve. I just don't understand how that would be because the timing, I can double check the timing, but I'm pretty sure the timing's good. So either way, let's compression test all 4. All right, you guys are just gonna have to take my word that this one's bad. Okay. All right, I'm gonna crank this. I'm gonna get you in a better angle. Okay, you can see the cam pulley and you can kind of see the water pump down here. But this thing spins, I know it does, there's dots on it, and I'm gonna crank it and you guys are gonna see this thing spins. Yeah, so big bummer. If it is valve related though, I can probably take the head off of the bad motor and just slap it on that, do a head swap in the car. On this motor, we come to the conclusion that it's bad piston rings. It's something we've never experienced before, so hopefully that's the case. I can pull the head and check. I don't know if I really want to do a head swap this weekend. It's a little bit involved. I don't know if I would be able to do it all in one day. At least I don't have the motivation. If John was here helping me out, probably could, but he's not. I think right now, currently, I'm going to run through this footage, edit up some of this video, and go from there. Figure out what to do with the rest of my weekend, I guess. Well, obviously, we made this engine not a good engine anymore. After kind of editing the video and kind of reviewing a lot of the footage, I am suspecting that the oil pump never worked and it was just drying, and the whole time I was cranking it, trying to get it to start, running it, it was just drying it out. What's odd about that though is I never had an oil pressure light. I never had the ECU fault out because it had low oil pressure. I mean, maybe it did. That's why it would shut off randomly. I didn't see an oil light on the dash, which is why I kind of never really thought about that being an option. But after watching the video, I'm like, man, why was I continuing to make this worse? Yeah, I can't really do much with it right now. I'm honestly not convinced that it's bent valves. So I want to get a borescope and do some inspecting down in there and see what actually happened, and then we'll go from there. But that's pretty much all I can do on this weekend. So I guess this car just really likes being filler episode material, because I gotta put this on the side and work on the Bronco again in these next couple weeks. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching all this. If you made it this far, please leave a comment. I really appreciate it. Let me know that you made it this far. That's gonna be it for this one. We'll see y'all next week when we're doing Bronco stuff. Peace.